Welcome to Perceptions Today podcast, where we discuss consciousness in all forms. April 2022, episode 22. Vooght joins us to discuss The Spirit in the Sky, part 2 of 3. Vooght is a passionate researcher, along with being an author of The Spirit in the Sky, Ancient Cosmological Gods and Where in the World We Find Them, DMT, Deities, Myths and Tryptamines, and also Devolution Cycle.
Again, there's I was just saying to Trent a moment ago, I mean, there's something that I could say that I wish I could say. I wish I had this next publication out there at the moment, and then I could wax lyrical about my new findings, which kind of almost
you can always come back.
highlight. Yeah, there's no doubt I'll be doing that, and I thank you for the invitation. But to cut a very long story short, prior to my own investigations and research into ancient religion, ancient mythology, brain biology. If someone had said to me 10 years ago that I'd be studying brain neurology and the like, I'd have laughed. I mean, I had no interest whatsoever, like almost zero, less than zero. And the same could be said for the Bible.
This is an instance of the conversation coming up in the Roundtable discussion. Participants knew it was being recorded.
I'm writing that down right now. Cool. How about that? My first question, Myron. Before the incident, were you able to imagine things easily, or did you find it to be difficult? And now afterwards, is your ability to imagine things in your mind's eye, has it changed? Is it more defined? Is it advanced? And is that part of that switch that you're experiencing? Just your abilities to imagine something in your mind's eye before the incident and after it.
Are you talking the incident meaning the coma or the incident going to Zelcon?
The coma. Before
the coma, everybody told me, my mom, my dad, my uncles, whatever, that I was just a normal little boy that played the piano. I liked music, so I started playing around with the piano at a very young age. I never listened to children's music. I listened to classical music even when I was 4 years old. I was listening to Bach and Tchaikovsky and things. And but I don't remember any of that. That got wiped out. So when I came out of the coma, I was not the same person, and everybody described to me how different that I was. I was not even close to the little boy that went into the coma. I was darker, I was quieter, I was more introverted. The music was still there. Now, most of the people on this cast probably already know that they thought I was demon possessed. So I went through to 2 exorcisms because in the New Testament, it talks about the epileptic being demon possessed, which has been refuted, of course. But so I went through 2 exorcisms to get rid of the demon, which was epilepsy. But of course, the epilepsy never went away. And so the world itself, I'm never confident that what I'm looking at is actually there. Even today, right now in this room that I sit in every day, and I posted it online one day, I sit and work at this computer every day doing art, and this room can move around. The desk can be on the wrong side of the room. The couch can be, gone and not here at all. So the world itself is not, I'm not confident in the world as most people would be. If they walked into this room, they would see the room in a certain configuration, but I don't necessarily see that configuration. But I know that they see that configuration, so I just pretend like I see it. And I've done that my whole life. I did it when I was an executive in the telephone business, and I did it when I was in the Army, and I've done it my whole life. That I've pretended to see things the way other people see them, and
Oh, sorry. I thought there was a pause there because Shadow Fox obviously is going to come in to ask you a question as well because her hand's up there. So
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
I just want to thank you, Myron. Thank you so much. I'm going to dig into your story a lot more. I'm sorry I was completely ignorant to the level of amnesia you experienced between pre and post coma. So just thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you.
Oh, one thing, if you want to know, on my website there's a book. It's called Book. I know that's really shocking, and that book is called The Boy That Nobody Wanted, a Journey to Zelkon. And in that book, it's written like a diary. It's about 160 pages. It's been quoted in quite a few books. Anthony Peake has quoted my book in 3 of his books because I didn't hold anything back when I wrote the book, because my spirit guide told me to put it all out there. And so I did. I didn't hold anything back. And so if you want to know about about my experiences, they're all there. And on Facebook, I post the art that I post is experiences that I have. And the art is just a record of those experiences. So it's like you're looking at my exposed journal every day that I post a work. Some of them are autobiographical, and so they're not metaphysical, but the metaphysical ones are exactly as I saw them.
Okay, just a quick one, because I forgot to mention at the very beginning that Rich has got a short time up to probably about 9:30. So I just want to make sure that we've got time to answer the questions. So I don't know if Shadow Fox was to Myron or to Richard. So I'll just quickly find that one out. And then if people have got questions, please put your hands up so I can make sure we can go through them quickly. Okay.
Yes, actually, this is really directed towards Richard for the most part, because there really is, it's like this elephant that's in the room. And those of us who have had near-death experiences, and now there's people who have an opportunity to gain that awareness that most of us that have experienced near-death experiences, it's just the awareness. And it's like what Myron was saying. We don't see the world the way everyone else does. And I guess one of my questions would be for those who have taken the DMTs or other natural ingredients, does that awareness kind of really stay with you like it does for us as the experiencers for these near death? I'm just really wondering because it really creates it just really creates a better engagement for the discussion around these experiences. I mean, for how long have many of us, whether we tried to explain our experiences or if we held back, this gives us an opportunity. It's like, here's the elephant in the room. Now we have something as a common experience, so to speak, to talk about. And I'm just wondering if, in your experience, if you've retained a greater awareness.
And just to throw on to that, Richard, once you've finished, bring Alex in, because Alex had his hand up.
Certainly.
No, sorry. I pushed the wrong button. I just want...
Hello?
I think we lost him.
No, he said he pushed the wrong button, but it's nice to hear from you, Alex. We will talk to you afterwards. Richard?
Yeah, just to touch on that very quickly. I genuinely don't think that anyone in the 21st century today knows what DMT is about. I think that there's a certain profundity, to it, that's beyond explanation. But the fact that it permeates the natural world, it's in all animals, it's in almost every plant, it's inside us. And And I think it's very close to being recognized as a neurotransmitter as well, which would go a long way to explaining what it's actually doing inside us, you know. But the reason I've written The Spirit in the Sky and Deities, Myth and Tryptamine is that going back to the Graham Hancock-esque Lost Civilization per se, and Scranton's otherworldly knowledge of Dogon pictoglyphs and their cosmology, I think that someone somewhere some time ago has worked this out, you know. And I think it is so hardwired to the human experience that whoever's worked it out has literally built myths and allegories in order to introduce it to the zeitgeist of future generations of humanity. You know, it's almost an unanswerable question, but when you have the DMT experience per se, trying to verbalize what you've seen and what you've witnessed with any form of clarity, I don't think that we've got the vocabulary at our disposal to actually do that yet. But I think that because it permeates the natural world, it's here for a reason. There's something to this, and I genuinely believe that somebody somewhere a long time ago has worked at least some of it out, and they want us to understand, or at least look into the complexity of our own brains and our own understanding of consensus reality to try and find out who we are, what reality is, and where we're going with it. It's a great question that you've given me, but it's one that's almost, at the moment, with the tools at our disposal, it's almost impossible to answer. And unfortunately, because researchers like myself and the Hancocks of the world are labeled with a pseudoscientist and the like, we're not being taken seriously when it really is an underlying and fundamental serious matter. Who are we? What is this place? Where are we going? What's next? And I think that DMT may be a precursor to actually eventually one day answering that and so many more questions that come with the DMT experience.
That's a good answer. Now, do I believe Alex with his hand up that he's got a question? And also, Trent, did you want to talk? Because I know that you were saying in text messages. Right, that's good. Right, so Alex, did you want to talk first and then Trent afterwards?
Yeah, I'll do it backwards because Richard just answered the questions. I was going to ask what he thinks his books, the books he has written, what practical. What you can use them for practically, and I think he answered that just now. So I'll actually answer that other question instead. So I think you have to differentiate which psychedelic you're using, because I do think they're extremely varied and different, and they do stay with you. For years it can be, sometimes for some people for a lifetime. And the question was, what if you see something, if it's still there, or if you experience the same thing when you're not taking them? Well, I would say that in my case anyway, it's not as clear, but it's definitely there, and I wouldn't say it's a vision. I would say more of a presence. And I'm a bit. I can ask this to Richard. Sorry, I'm driving, so I'm a bit absent-minded. I can ask Richard this.
Concentrate on the driving, Alex. Eyes front.
Yeah, you always have these when I'm driving home from work, so it's a bit. Do you think? I don't have an opinion on this, so I'm just I'm always playing devil's advocate with myself. But
I think you have to.
Yeah, I'm wondering if the DMT is more of a technical, mechanical. I mean, even though it might seem spiritual, and when you take it, and that's because it's so amazing, but maybe it's just like the nuts and bolts. And what you really need is the with the ayahuasca, or the iboga, or the mushrooms, where you have more of like a living creature, a more real spirit, I guess you could say. The reason I'm thinking this is because of those different indigenous cultures in the Amazon that doesn't add DMT or very little DMT to their brew. And the closer you get to the gringo retreats, the higher the increase of DMT. So I'm thinking like, well, it's just the fireworks, and the actual core message or the actual voice of intelligence that you can hear is not coming from the DMT. The DMT is more like the thing to get your attention, but the secret is elsewhere. What do you think?
No, I think that's a valid point. But again, I think the jury's out. I think that, I mean, cracky, we've got Elon Musk sending people to the moon in a couple of years, to Mars a couple of years thereafter. I mean, we're so blown away with nuts and bolts technology and what we're doing, and I'm taking nothing away. From that. But I don't think that the nuts and bolts of what we see as reality is the defining answer to what everything's about. You know, I think there's something more. And I understand what you're saying with regards to the gringos going to the jungle and expecting the proverbial DMT elves that McKenna will talk about. You go in there with the preamble psyche, you know, with the mentality, I'm going to see this, I'm going to see that. Yeah, it's very, it's a hard point of view to traverse, but I think that as scientifically savvy as we are in the 21st century, I think we're most definitely in our infancy with regards to DMT and the all-encompassing otherworldly phenomenon that DMT, or at least the breakthrough experience, will give you.
It also depends on biochemistry of the person and also the cultures, because of how DNA has changed throughout evolution. Indeed.
But again, if it's not like, let's say LSD, for instance, if you introduce LSD past the blood-brain barrier, you're going to have an experience that isn't necessarily going to marry up to the guy that's taking it next to you. For argument's sake as well, LSD, it isn't endogenous. The brain and the body doesn't produce it naturally, although it produces DMT naturally. Why? Nobody knows. Nobody can answer that. I wish I could answer that. I wish I had the answers. And there's a lot of people that wish they did.
Possibly Trent has the answer.
Far away, Trent.
Baloney. I have no answers. Only massive amounts of questions.
That's not the way. When I've built you up so well, you come in like that.
Don't build me up as having any answers. I'm just the question asker. I find all this amazingly fascinating. Is it my turn for a question?
Yeah, please fire away.
So my first question is only because I heard you say earlier that the spirit in the sky was 4 times as long originally. Do you have any thoughts or plans to at some point publish any of that, or just share it? Because I would spend whatever on more, and I understand the reality of the economy of selling books, that you had to cut it down. But do you have any interest in ever putting the whole thing out there?
What a great question. I've never even thought about that.
You need to take a poll with people while you're in the room. You need to find out while you got people
I don't
listening.
know that it's worth it, perhaps, but there's those of us that love more.
No,
Trent, sell it. Don't degrade it. Just say yes.
No, I genuinely appreciate that. I really do. But I also believe that the bits that I've shaved off the sides, the almost the
chaff.
well, there's. I mean, how much chaff is there with regards to ancient mythology when it plays hand in hand with scientific studies, the 21st century? I mean, well, I'll go back to Laird Scranton, and I implore everybody that's listening to this conversation this evening to really tune in to what Laird's going to be talking about on Thursday, because the guy certainly made me sit up straight in my chair and think, holy shit, there's more, and I say this in a lot of tweets, but there's a lot more to the myths than meets the eye, you know? Why create myths? I mean, there has to be a certain profundity to it in order for a myth to grow legs and land and stand a test of time, you know. Or otherwise, why bother? Why bother?
So my other question for you on that kind of goes to that is, we tend to write stories, you know. We write our stories on the sky when that was the way we wrote stories. We wrote our stories on the land when that's all we had. Once we had words, we wrote our stories there, and we're just writing stories all over the place. And you had mentioned Elon and technology and how now we're just doing that. Just as early humans may have wrote their stories in the sky or wrote their stories on the earth or wrote them down and handed them to each other, do you think technology is a way where we may be writing this story, and that, you know, DMT and the presence of these chemicals and the presence of the parts of our brain that all of this seems to tie in? Do you think that might just show up in some of this technology? Not even, but I guess that's my question is, do you think it was all intentional, or do you think this just came out because human experiences come out and get written into stories?
No, I think that there's definitely a methodology behind the particular mythologies that I myself write about. I think the problem today is because I say today, even the past 150 years, due to the advent of electricity and pushing technology where we are today, no one's looking up anymore. You know, you can't see the stories in the sky. You can't see the constellations. You know, everyone's kind of walking around taking care of their own shit. Excuse my language.
Okay, next time you do that, I told you about language. It's rule one
this time, Paul.
I know you get a gold star.
And more power to everyone cracking on and doing what they're doing to get their own experience in this short existence as a mayfly as it is for us in this short lifetime, you know. But nobody's looking up anymore. Nobody's paying attention to mythologies. No one's paying attention to the stories that are written in the stars. Why were they written in the stars? What?
Because across the world, we could all see them. No matter where you were, the stories were up there, and they're still up there. We just have to turn on the damn lights.
Precisely. And just like the modern movies of today, the names may have been changed to protect the innocent, XYZ. You know how it goes with the movies. But fundamentally, the stories are still the same. You know, you've picked a great little theme here, Trent. You really have. And I'd love to elaborate a little bit more. But until I've published my next writing, I'm bursting at the seams to talk about certain things here with regards to the advance of my hypothesis and where I think this could possibly go. But until it's published, unfortunately, I'm I'm somewhat hesitant to discuss it in the public domain at the minute, but you're spot on. There's so much more to this.
I'm on the edge of my seat. I'm waiting. I'm stoked. And I guess I'll close just saying thank you. The as above, so below, I've heard so many times. And since I was a little kid, that's a saying that I've heard thrown around so haphazardly. But like after reading Spirit in the Sky, that phrase just hits me. And every time I see something that I get stumped by or have a slam in face first into a paradox, the thing that I come back to is as above, so below. Look above this, look below this. How does this work itself on the large to the small scale? And it's such a fun tool. So thank you for like bringing it to life for me. I appreciate it.
That means the world, Trent. Thank you so much for the support. It really does mean the world. I mean, again, without people like yourself and the listeners that are tuning in as well, without people that are actually buying the books, I mean, my writing, it literally goes nowhere, you know? So, I tip my hat and thank you all for the support. Thank you so much.
Now, I have to say that we've got people who want to ask questions, but we've got people in here who got the speaker mic, and I need to drop some of them down. Obviously, we got Centered Awareness would like to say something, but those who don't actually want to speak anymore, please can you disconnect yourself or try and let us disconnect you so that we can get the people in?
Paul, you can take me down. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you very much. Let's see if you disappear.
I ate up a bunch of time too. Feel free to drop me as well for now, and I'll chime back in if I have more.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. All right. Now, let's see. Greybeard, have you got in there? Now, Centered Awareness wanted to say something.
Yeah, just a quick question to Richard before I go. And I really hope my question doesn't offend anyone. Let's keep an open mind. This is purely just, this question's out of my curiosity.
I am now very, very scared. What are you going to say?
Just in regards to when you were saying myths, like, somebody's worked it all out and they've created myths in regards to the stories that are going on in the stars and things like that. When it comes to story, like, I'm not a religious person, I'm more of a spiritual person, but when it comes to stories, say, about Jesus, what would you say? Would you say that he was part of the mythology as well that was created? Or because that's one struggle I'm having, like, was he real, wasn't he real?
No, great question. And I like to think that I address that in Deities, Myth and Tryptamines via the ongoing research of ex-pastor and researcher Bill Donohue. And if you're not privy to the research of Bill Donohue, he's got an outdated website, admittedly, but the underlying information that's on there, he has a YouTube channel as well, under Hidden Meanings, hiddenmeanings.com. I think again, it's not my place to offend and this, that, and the other, but I think that,
I know it's a hard question I didn't want to ask the question without offending anyone.
No, sure,
I know
sure.
The answer might be a bit tricky as well without offending anyone. So it's an overall rule, people, please don't get offended. This is an open discussion. Let's keep an open mind.
We have very much conversations here are thoughtful ones to just figure out things. By the way, Cosmic Librarian Darlene is also listening in, and she was saying that nature has to be part of things rather than just machine kind of related bit, which is true. So continue Centered Awareness, because obviously we got Whitebeard and also Natural Born Alchemist there as well.
Well, with regards to, I don't know if you've read Deities, Myth and Tryptamines, but in that, I think the underlying association with Jesus and my standpoint, I genuinely believe that it's a reworked mythology from ancient Greece, from Dionysus, which is borrowed again from Osiris, which is borrowed again from Zeus, which is, I mean, it's just kind of, it's like
before them even as well,
Yeah, and I think that I think that the underlying story. I mean, I'm very explicit in DMT, Deities, Myth, and Tryptamines, the latest publication, whereby what's the best way to put this? I think again,
I was just going to say, sorry.
No,
the best way to put it is it's a fantastic book for the biomechanical imprint of how brain structures are. And if you're fascinated by neurology, it's something that you'd want to read. Myself, I was really fascinated with it because of obviously head injuries, everything else, blah, blah, blah. And it only took me less than a day to read in 2 sittings with doing everything else, because you just want to go back and look at it more. And there is so much to go back and pilfer through because it crosses so many different religions, doesn't it, Richard?
No, undoubtedly. And they all appear to be singing from the same proverbial hymn sheet, you know. Again, there's I was just saying to Trent a moment ago, I mean, there's something that I could say that I wish I could say. I wish I had this next publication out there at the moment, and then I could wax lyrical about my new findings, which kind of almost
you can always come back.
Yeah, there's no doubt I'll be doing that, and I thank you for the invitation. But to cut a very long story short, prior to my own investigations and research into ancient religion, ancient mythology, brain biology. If someone had said to me 10 years ago that I'd be studying brain neurology and the like, I'd have laughed. I mean, I had no interest whatsoever, like almost zero, less than zero. And the same could be said for the Bible. For almost 30 years of my life, I thought that the Bible, and I'm sorry whoever I'm offending out there, I thought it was just brainwashing material for people that couldn't think for themselves. And I hate to say it, but yeah, I just thought, where's your heads at? Come on, this makes no sense whatsoever. But again, going back to the research of Bill Donahue, and admittedly, from my perspective, he's not 100% correct 100% of the time, but he's damn close. Can
you tell them the YouTube actual channel he's got? Because that's where you were finding a really decent amount of information, weren't you?
Oh, sure. If you just type into the Google search engine, Bill Donahue.
That's a standard spelling, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a standard spelling, and it'll be under Bill Donahue, Hidden Meanings. If you type Bill Donahue and Hidden Meanings into the search engine on Google, you can't go wrong. It's going to steer you in the right direction.
Obviously, you've got these questions lined up here, and I know you said you got short time, so I don't know how quickly you want me to get these people in front of you.
Well, I'll just finish what I'm saying. I'll answer a couple more questions before I make a move. But
I want to make sure that you were running over time, so that's good.
No, I do appreciate that. But just with regards to me saying that the Bible was just basically fit for no-brainers and brainwashing material and the easily led and easily fooled, and I apologize. Yeah, I apologize outright for having that standpoint initially for much of my life. But as I say, after being introduced to the biomechanics of the human brain, which I started to study after digesting a number of lectures and such from Bill Donahue, I realized that I couldn't be further from the truth. You know, in my opinion, and many people's opinion now that I've spoken to when I talk about this sort of stuff, it appears that the underlying message of the Bible is actually, other than just basically be like, just be nice, which is its underlying message. Other than its focal message, God is light. Light is the most significant message and underlying, underlying point of view that the Bible's trying to get across. Everything is related to light, and that's what the ancient Egyptian mythologies are talking about as well. Everyone's a god of light, you know. But it appears that the Bible is now basically a metaphorical, and a metaphorical is key here, you know. The Bible states on a number of occasions throughout the Bible, it can't be more explicit in saying these are dark sayings of old. Everything that Jesus said was said in allegory. These are the riddles of the wise. You know, don't take it at face value. Yeah. People don't walk on water. Yeah. Horses don't fly. You know, miracles don't happen. You know, everything has an allegorical alternative meaning that has scientific understanding, which can be backed up. And my mind was literally blown when I cite Bill Donahue on numerous occasions in DMT, Deities, Myth and Tryptamines, whether it's the myth of Pegasus, Poseidon, Medusa. I was a fan of the myths when I was a kid, you know, watching Perseus slay Medusa and Pegasus bursting out of Medusa's head. I absolutely loved it. Clash of the Titans. It was brilliant. But what did it mean? It meant nothing to me. And then I was introduced to a whole new world through, as I say, ex-pastor Bill Donahue, whereby I realized that the Bible was written as a fundamental template for the biomechanics of the human brain and beyond. And it's still, I'm excited to talk about it, but I mean, realistically, we'd need a couple of days to finish the podcast, just talking about the Bible itself. But the Bible, for want of a better description, is almost taken word for word, albeit the names have been changed to protect the innocent, as I was saying earlier on with regards to the movies and bits and pieces. It's all ancient Egyptian mythology. Even the Bible states as much. It's out of Egypt I called my son.
And you know us, we do most of our conversations in less than 5 minutes.
Indeed.
Ignore him.
So, do you want to get Whitebeard up then? Obviously, Alex and then Sam. Is there anybody else who wants to raise their hand? Because I just want to make sure that we don't miss anyone.
Yeah, we'll have to disappear in 10 minutes. So.
Yeah, I've got to go too. I need to start getting ready for work.
Well, thank you very much for coming along and joining us on this 6-month anniversary of so many good topics that we've gone through and so many good conversations.
Ciao, everybody. It was great seeing some regular faces and obviously some new ones. Happy 6-month anniversary, Perceptions Today community, and love you all and hope to see you again next week. Bye.
Thank you so much, Melissa. It's been an absolute pleasure, and obviously we'll do this again and revisit the same hypothesis where we can really get in depth when we talk about the star names of the constellations and what, the ancient allegories, let's say, and the meaning with regards to 21st century science, because somebody needs something somewhere, and it's all been documented in myth for us for today. So thank you again, Melissa.
And no, Richard, thank you so much for coming along as well. And I was thinking I was going to speak to Paul after this session to do another session with you as well, focusing more on based around my question, because it was a very good answer, and I'd love to get deeper into that. But just a bit short.
We could do a split one where we could do 2 on one side, gap, and then do another one like we do with Anthony Peake and other people.
Yeah, that'd be an absolute pleasure.
That's a great idea.
Before we get these pauses are always good. I don't want to see you leave. I was going to say, Cosmic Librarian says bingo to yourself, Richard. So, right on the money. She means not that you've just scored a decent line by we're playing consciousness bingo, because I've issued out all these little leaflets beforehand that you have to strike through every time you mention a word on the Bible.
It'll become a drinking game before long.
Oh, that'd be a dangerous one. Right, so see you soon, obviously centered. Hopefully Thursday, if you're coming.
So that'll be my Friday. Your Thursday is my Friday, yeah?
Yes, if you take the invitation, it will tell you the right times in the Zoom.
Okay.
Invitation.
All right. Perfect. All right. Bye, everyone. Bye, Paul. Bye, Richard. And I'll speak to you guys soon.
Speak to you soon.
Okay, did Whitebeard have a question before I leave?
Whitebeard and then Alex, and then I don't think Sam just bounced her out.
Okay.
Yeah, I got a multi-question for you. Richard, that all ties into one. So just as you were saying, with the metaphors and the egregores of mythology and ancient religions, it starts to become clear that our ancient ancestors had a great deal of understanding of DMT, almost as like a key. And to me, when they speak of like death, it's almost like they don't mean literal death, but the DMT, like when you die, like in a near-death experience, and like the rebirth. So my questions are, how much do you think they actually understood? If it, obviously understood more than we do now. That's apparent to me. But did they have a great more deal of understanding? And if they did, where's your speculation on where that knowledge went? And lastly, what's your speculation and opinion on the new metaverse and VR and how that may restrict our use of DMT and maybe exploring that key of rebirth?
Okay, so the last part of that question, I would actually say I am not versed enough regarding the meta universe to even comment. I genuinely wouldn't know what to say. I really wouldn't. But sorry, what was the original question with regards to the ancients and DMT?
Just how much you feel they actually did know. Did they have a well-grounded understanding, or and if they did, where do you speculate that knowledge went?
I think it all went west with what happened at the end of the Younger Dryas, which the likes of Carlson and Hancock talk about now with regards to a celestial bombardment and the potential fallout of civilization. Whether our ancients understood the nature of DMT 100% and more, the jury will always be out. But I genuinely understand and believe that they knew enough with regards to the human experience to realize its profundity, to basically infuse it into mythological allegory, and the zeitgeist of a globally connected civilization. Whether that goes against the grain of mainstream thinking or not, I really don't care. I think it's an absolute no-brainer now when you start to look at the cosmologies, the construction techniques, the mythologies, and everything else. I mean, we touched on the Jesus mythology, and it's very easy. It's unbelievably easy to link Jesus with Zeus, with Dionysus, with Osiris, with our moon. I mean, the list goes on, and they're all gods of light. I think light has a lot to do with, well, without light, there's almost no life on Earth. But I think light and the interaction of light and DMT, I think somebody somewhere definitely had some understanding of the nuts and bolts of what we call consensus reality, and maybe beyond. And I think that they've imparted this knowledge to a civilization that's scientifically adept, albeit got the blinkers on, don't want to listen, mainstream, you're pseudoscientist, you're full of crap. I don't care what they say. They're not looking at the entire argument, It's, how's the best way to describe it? It's like if you get diagnosed with cancer, you want a second opinion, third opinion, fourth opinion. You've got cancer all the way across the board. Why is that? Because they're all doctors that have gone to the same school of doctorate. They've all got the same idea on what the crack is. They're not looking outside the box. I'm not comparing this to cancer at all. I'm just saying it's that there's blinkers on. There's a trail of thought, and they won't be moved. And I think Graham Hancock tweeted recently regarding closed minds and things like that. There's too many closed minds that are out there, and I think it's time for us to just look outside the box a little. I'm not saying that we're all going to be correct. I'm not saying we're all going to be correct at all, but the way documented history is at the moment, and I'd love to go into the allegory that I talk about in the book about human civilization being 50 lifetimes long, but It's a little bit long-winded, but there's definitely more to the myth than meets the eye, considering that anatomical human beings have been ambling around the plains of the earth for over 300,000 years, and we've only got a documented history of human civilization for the past 5,000. I mean, what were we doing? What were we doing for the other 295,000 years? You know, it beggars belief. It's to say that. Yeah, I'm not saying that we're building rockets and exploring Mars and this, that, and the other 10, 20, 30,000 years ago. I'm not saying we were technologically evolved with regards to nuts and bolts, travel and a car and a combustion engine and X, Y, Z. Spiritually astute and naturally adept with regards to what we're about and what plants are about and how we can interact and commune with possible plant life and entities that might, albeit exist therein with regards to an immaterial reality.
Cosmic serpent.
Cosmic serpent. There you go. I mean, Narby. I'm quoting Jeremy Narby in the Cosmic Serpent in my next book, and again, I was
going to also say Monica Gagliano and also Stefano Marcanzu, the scientist, and also obviously she's a scientist as well, botanist. So everyone's got kind of connection points to it.
Absolutely everybody in this kind of field of research holds a proverbial piece to the prehistoric puzzle. From my experience, it's unfortunate that not many people, you've got the Hancocks of the world again. I keep reverting to the Hancocks of the world, but they're doing a tremendous job, a wonderful job. And there's a lot of them that bark on about how scientists don't want to all play together and this, that, and the other. But what you will find, and what I've found extremely frustrating recently, is that a lot of the alternative researchers as well are protecting their own little thing. They don't want outsiders to kind of penetrate that inner circle. They don't want to share the proverbial puzzle pieces with everybody else as well to find that perfect picture, which is such a shame. It's such a shame because I think that the Hancocks, the Scrantons, the Freddie Silvers, there's a list longer than my arm, you know, of alternative researchers that are genuinely on the money. Not 100% of the time, admittedly. And I'm sure I'm not completely 100% right. And I know that my methodology and my trail of thought and my research may in fact change over time. Everything does, you know. But I think it's time that everyone played together, you know, sort of just disassembled the walls and said, look, welcome in. Let's see what this picture looks like, you know. Let's get rid of some of the rubbish, some of the stuff that doesn't make sense, but the stuff that does make sense, let's play together. Let's find out what's happened in a bygone age, prehistory. Let's find out where we could be, or where we're headed. You know, I mean, you look at what's going on in the world at the moment. It's a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare. No one's talking. No one wants to talk, and it's really, really, really scary. And it's only going to take one lunatic to press a button, and that's it. It's game over for everyone. I want to find out what's next, if there is something next. And my research and other people's research.
No, not that way. Do not just ask for the button to be pressed so you can get to find out what's next. Just
no, exactly. But what?
Don't wipe out the earth just to get to the next page.
All I'm saying here, Paul, is it's just time. It's time that everyone stop protecting their own little niche. Kind of, no, this is mine. Don't get involved. Well, actually, your research is linked to my research, is linked to the next man's research and the next woman's research. Actually, all of this would make sense if we all started talking together instead of protecting our own little niche and just doing what we're doing for ourselves, you know?
Well, the other thing is you're getting people like musicians, obviously scientists, you're getting experiencers, you're getting authors, you're getting artists, all kind of coming along now and finding groups like these that we're in, and they're finding puzzle pieces, and it's just finding those groups to extend into to see if you can match one of your pieces that you've been handed and see if they got one in that environment.
Entirely. And as I say, everyone's got a piece of the puzzle. Some might not fit perfectly, some might fit a little bit later on down the line, who knows? But again, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater on a lot of this stuff. Because someone somewhere quite clearly knew something. And I think a lot of people are going to learn a lot of things with regards to 21st century science, ancient mythology, and religion as well. When the likes of Laird Scranton starts waxing lyrical about who the Dogon are and the information that they appear to be they are privy to. It's non-negotiable, absolutely non-negotiable. But where did they get this? Well, that's another story. That's another story. But they seem to be almost not out of sight, but they're certainly ahead of the current curve that we're on at the moment in 21st century science. And it's extremely frustrating.
I think a lot of researchers are finding that as well, that, as you said, it's a little bit difficult to break into areas. And when you are, it's not ridicule, is it? It's kind of just what could happen next, instead of going, okay, let's try and figure something else out and put it over there and come back to it later, or we should investigate this more.
Sure. No, sure. There's, I've had trouser thoughts about different, all sorts of things in the past. I thought Christopher Dunn's wireless electromagnetic energy tower via the Giza Plateau and the Great Pyramid of Egypt, it held a lot of water 10 years ago, which is why I wrote Devolution Cycle, which is loosely based upon, as I said earlier on in the conversation, ancient anomalies, modern day science, and Tesla's technology. I still feel it's a great story that I've written. But that said as well, and thank you, Paul. But that said as well, my mind has changed since. It's not something that, it's not something that I'd back my life on at the moment. And again, without over elaborating too much, I'm kind of chomping at the bit to say something. But
don't you think? Because Krista's got something, and we can keep you quiet that way by letting Krista ask the question.
Please do. It won't be long until this next book out, so yeah, it'll be a matter of trying to shut me up then. But fire away, Krista, before I leave.
Hang on, your audio is a bit strange at the moment. Not you, Krista, but obviously RN. I don't know if you're coming backwards or forwards on your mic or not. Are you on a headset or what's?
No. It's just in my head.
Maybe it's just the environment. Continue, Krista.
Well, thanks, Richard, for this. This has been great. I was really looking forward to this talk and not disappointed. And I just wanted to echo your sentiment of wanting to share people's research. And I get why some people might be protective of it, because it is kind of an outlier for if they're coming from a scientific background. This kind of research is you can close a lot of doors if you expose yourself to doing this kind of research. But, as someone that studies plants, you see biomimicry, you see things that are repeated in the own human body with the plants that are grown. And I see that biomimicry also, repeated in my familiar spaces, the dream world and looking at dream mythology, but that is repeated in other mythologies. It's repeated in stories. It's repeated in artwork. And what comes to me from all this is just weaving. It's, each of us is here to kind of play our part in the tapestry of connecting information together. And you wanting people to share their research is just that to me. It's, if we want to have a greater understanding of something endogenous to our own body and our own earth, and we're keep coming up to roadblocks of connecting the pieces together, it is really vital for people to share their information so that you can connect these pieces. And I'm really glad that you're doing the work. And I haven't read your book, but I'll order it and read it. But yeah, I wanted to say that what comes up to me a lot is just weaving this information together. And it's apropos that this is the 6-month anniversary of this space, because this space in itself is a weaving of a lot of really great and sometimes really off the wall information, but it's always been kind of a joy to put together, because it leads us down tangents that maybe we didn't expect that we would go. So that's all. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That's I think you've summed it up admirably. I really do. You in all due respect, you probably hold a piece of that proverbial puzzle yourself. And again, thank you everyone for listening. Again, thank you, Paul, for the time, because again, you're creating a community that can be hard. It's a niche community, you know. It can be hard to find, air quote, the others. But you're doing a great job. I find that with conversations, whether I'm part of the conversation, whether I'm just listening, I'm always learning. And I thank everyone for that. I thank everyone for listening today. And thank you so much for the support. And I look forward to doing this again. Thank you all so much.
Well, thank you very much for all the comments, because it is the community. And if it isn't people coming and sharing and putting the information in for us, we wouldn't grow as much. And we've learned so much within the last 6 months and more with everything we've done. And even, as I've said to people before, when I do the podcast review, say it's a 4-hour one, I always listen to it almost 3 times. You know, I do it once when we're sitting here and I learn something. Then when I'm editing, I start hearing more, and then I go over it again before uploading just to see whether there's anything missing. But I'm never kind of going, bored with this, I must switch it off. So it's nice to know that all the stuff that we're getting here, and hopefully it's resonating with others, because the more people that show us that it's resonating, whether it be subscribing on, say, YouTube and liking comments or leaving comments, or the podcast on different directions, or people coming over to you and buying your books and doing that and leaving reviews on Amazon or other places, that's the kind of feedback you need.
Oh, undoubtedly, 100%. And again, it's opportunities like this when people turn up and show willing to, just to be part of the conversation. You know, it inspires me to do what I'm doing. You know, there's for writers of all walks of life. I'm sure it happens to everyone. You can get bummed out sometimes and think, man, sounds aren't this, that, and the other, or the interaction on Twitter isn't as good as maybe it should be. Maybe for some reason, I don't know why this video didn't work as much on my YouTube channel as much as the other one. It's a shame, because that one had more substance to it than the one that's really run away. But it's conversations like this that just inspire me just to keep plugging away and researching and writing what I'm writing. So,
and again,
thank you so much.
Taking time out of their day when they don't have to be within, say, dragged here. They've come here off their own volition, which is fantastic.
Oh, entirely. And I do appreciate the time zones across the world as well. People getting ready for work, people being at work, people driving, people just chilling out. You know, it's it's wonderful. So again, Paul, I tip my hat to yourself for creating a community.
You forced me into this.
I know. I pushed you. I did push you, but I said that if you build it, they will come. Well. And here we are. But listen, we'll talk again later on, Paul, as well, and we'll make sure that we pencil this in for another time, so we can really go into the nuts and bolts about star names and mythologies and this, that, and the other, because we've barely even touched the tip of the iceberg over the past couple of hours as well. There's so much we can talk about. So,
does anybody want to say goodbye to this man before I give him the final push out the door?
Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you all so much. The support is very, very, very much appreciated, and stay safe, everyone.
Just thank you very much for giving up your time and obviously coming to play in our sandbox. And Trent just wants to say something, because he just wants to obviously.
Richard, thank you so much. This is so awesome.
Trent, do you think you want to have him on your Continuing the Conversation podcast?
Go for it. So if you're ever available, Richard, we'd love to.
Your audio's a bit off. Trent, your audio's a bit squelchy.
Yeah.
Try again.
Absolutely, Richard. You ever have time and want to talk to a bunch of crazy hippies that swear a lot more than the folks in here, we would love to have you.
Yeah, man. Listen, we'll definitely do that again. We tried once, but I've got a new phone since as well, so I need to reinstall a number of apps and that as well. So if you put that invitation out there, we'll definitely join the conversation, buddy.
Sounds great. Thanks so much for your time today, brother.
Thank you so much for joining us. It's much appreciated, and thank you everyone again.
And thank you very much. We're going to probably keep the room open for another half hour, depending on where the conversation goes. So if people want to stick around and chat on the topics, what Richard's brought up, or any other ones, then feel free.
No, fabulous. Please do, because it would be intriguing for me to look back on, what you guys talk about when I'm not in the room. It's always easier to talk about something when I'm not there. Albeit good or bad. Do what you want. It's great. And I just appreciate the support, guys. But we'll do this again, and I'll speak soon. Take care.
Definitely. Get some ice pack for your ears, because they're going to be burning.
Cheers, Paul. Take care.
Speak to you soon. Bye.
Bye.
So, again, we've now got open slots for if you want to talk or not. I'm just looking at the options and what we've got going on here, which is good. Making sure I don't miss anyone that's raised their hand. So what did you like from the conversational topics? Again, you'd have to raise your hand to let me know. Okay, Myron.
Yeah, what I liked was how many people, are exploring these areas of the brain and of the mind that have been really ignored. I know it's considered pseudoscience. After all, I'm on the board with 25 neurologists, and they would think what we were just saying is nonsense, but that's their problem. And it's
To help our research and understanding, leave Perceptions Today's podcast reviews, subscribe to the podcast, along with the other social media accounts, and share. Come and join our live events. That way we can get together and have thoughtful discussions along with advancing our understanding of concepts as we go along.